To understand existence, you first have to understand the concept of non-existence. But let's start with the universe and see if we can work our way backwards to non-existence. The universe, according to science, is a place of space, time and matter. What happens if we remove all of these, if we strip space, time and matter from the universe? Would that abolish existence and leave us with non-existence? According to Abrahamism, if you took space, time and matter away, you would not be left with non-existence, but with the supposed creator of space, time and matter, namely God. According to Eastern religion, what would remain would be some sort of cosmic consciousness, a bare consciousness, some mental component, a unity, wholeness, and interconnectedness, which generates the universe's Maya, illusion, a phenomenon produced by a noumenal mind that underlies everything. What does philosophy say? The pre-Socratic philosopher Anaximander said that underneath everything was the apparent, the infinite, the limitless, the beginning, the origin, the arch, the first principle. Pythagoras said that number was the root of everything. Anaxagoras said it was new, cosmic mind. Plato said that it was a set of eternal, perfect, transcendent forms. Aristotle said it was God, which he defined as pure actuality, matterless form, pure thought thinking about pure thought. Plotinus the Neoplatonist said it was an ineffable one, beyond being. The Gnostics said it was the pleroma, the spiritual world, the world of pure light. Leibniz said it was monads. Kant said it was an unknowable noumenon. Hegel said it was dialectical Geist, mind or spirit. Schopenhauer said it was the brute will to exist. Nietzsche said it was the will to power. Stephen Hawking said, the origin of the universe can be explained by the laws of physics. These laws predict that the universe was spontaneously created out of nothing in a rapidly expanding state. This is called inflation. So, according to Hawking and the worshippers of the cult of scientism, what exists before space, time and matter, is not non-existence per se, but the laws of physics. Where are these laws? What is their location? What do they exist in? What conveys them if there is no space, time or matter? They must be immaterial since they are not material, but don't scientists say that nothing immaterial exists? What a joke. They are refuted by their own laws, which are immaterial, outside space and time, not subject to entropy, and exist at a temperature of absolute zero and are eternal, all totally incompatible with the claims of science. The stuff of physics degrades. The laws of physics do not degrade. That's a category error, an impossible dualism. Eternal and necessary laws must exist in something that does not degrade. But these laws must also control the temporal and contingent things that do degrade. Material things. Matter must be grounded in the eternal and necessary immaterial order. Because energy can be neither created nor destroyed, which means that energy is eternal and necessary. You can't randomly generate energy out of non-existence, as science ridiculously claims, in total violation of the conservation of energy. And you cannot do accounting tricks with energy to get out of this, such as claiming that you can create energy out of nothing at all, as long as you balance it with equal and opposite negative energy. Ludicrously, Stephen Hawking said, nothing cannot exist forever. Really? The idea here is that nothing at all isn't nothing at all. It contains some capacity to generate something. But, in that case, it was never nothing at all. It was always something. So, Hawking's statement is false. Nothing at all, if it really was nothing at all, could of course endure forever. In fact, on the face of it, it is the most obvious, default state of the universe. That's why Leibniz was compelled to ask, why is there something rather than nothing? Hawking must also have meant to say, something cannot exist forever. The equivalent statement for something is he made for nothing. What about the laws of physics, Stephen? When are they going to suddenly blink out of existence? And when did they suddenly blink into existence out of non-existence? By what miracle? Hawking wrote, one of the basic rules of the universe is that nothing is perfect. Perfection simply doesn't exist. Without imperfection, neither you nor I would exist. Really? Aren't the laws of physics perfect, Stephen? If they weren't perfect, they would be totally unreliable and unstable, and produce a totally unreliable and unstable universe, and self-destruct instantly. Imagine imperfect laws. How would you be able to work out what they were, given that their imperfections would keep generating bizarre, unpredictable, irrational and illogical results? You couldn't have a universe without perfect laws, and the only perfect, eternal laws are those of mathematics, not science. Stephen Hawking was a shockingly inept philosopher, and, exactly because of that, all of his scientific speculations were incoherent and basically absurd. If you cannot explain, understand and define the laws of physics, how on earth can you expect to explain and understand the universe they create? The two are absolutely and indissolubly connected. If you cannot explain why and how the laws exist, and in what they exist, and in what way they exist, then how can you explain the universe to which they give rise? Scientists are clueless speculators. Richard Feynman said, in general, we look for a new law by the following process. First, we guess it, audience laughter. No, don't laugh, that's really true. There you have it, straight from the horse's mouth. The main tool of science is not working out things rationally, but guessing, just making random stabs in the dark. The laws of physics are actually entirely consistent with Platonic forms, yet science despises Plato and his perfect, eternal, immutable, transcendent forms outside space and time, which give rise to space, time and matter. Look at the following comparison: Plato's laws, eternal, perfect, immutable, outside space and time, immaterial, transcendent, zero entropy. Science's laws, eternal, perfect, immutable, outside space and time, immaterial, transcendent, zero entropy. So, shouldn't every scientist be studying Plato? None do. The first thing science has to do is explain its own laws. If it can't explain them, it can't explain anything else. You cannot use scientific experiments to explain the laws of science, only to observe their effects. Scientists have never grasped that simple fact. That's because they are empiricists and not rationalists. Only reason and logic can explain the laws of physics, and that means that reason and logic can also explain everything produced by those laws. And that means that everything is in fact mathematical, not scientific. Here's a simple question for all scientists. If you removed mathematics from science, what would be left of science? Nothing at all, at least nothing of any rational worth. Mathematics, however, doesn't need science. So, who needs science? The answer is that no one needs it. Everything that science does can be done much more rationally and logically by ontological mathematics. Scientists aren't good at using reason and logic. That's because they are sensing types, not thinking types. They believe that we live in a sensory, empirical world. We don't. We live in a rational world which has a sensory, empirical aspect. You cannot understand the latter without understanding the former. Science has never grasped this basic fact. Nor could it ever. Because it rejects reason and logic and relies on the senses. The senses are shallow. They show you surfaces and appearances. They never show you what things are in themselves, noumena. Only reason and logic can tell you what things actually are in themselves. Scientists have failed to comprehend this. The only part of science that works is the mathematical part. All the rest is nonsense, an absurd product of the absurd philosophy of empiricism and materialism, which, as anyone who has ever studied David Hume knows, leads to absolute skepticism and the total annihilation of substantive knowledge. Scientists do not know that, because scientists do not know anything about philosophy. Scientists believe that's a strength. In fact, it's an intellectual catastrophe. Scientists are not intellectuals. They are glorified technicians. Kurt Gödel said, "I don't believe in empirical science. I only believe in a priori truth." It's time the world got on board with that agenda, but only the smartest people in the world are capable of it. Scientists aren't intellectually up to it. They still believe in empiricism. They still believe the naive superstition that the senses show us reality. So, how can we understand non-existence? What is it? What is the simplest possible conceptual item? It's the static mathematical point. The static mathematical point has no dimensions, no extension, no mass, no energy, no location, no qualities, no characteristics. The static mathematical point has no properties at all. It is therefore non-existence. But what is true of one point is true of infinite points. So, there you have it. Non-existence can be defined exactly. It is infinite static mathematical points in a singularity. The singularity of points is nothing, does nothing, and has no properties. It has no effects, no consequences, and causes nothing. Having understood how to define non-existence, it then becomes simplicity itself to explain existence. Existence is what you get when you take static mathematical points and do just one thing to them, make them move, and what makes them move is the principle of sufficient reason, which asserts that every rationally equivalent state must be treated with exact parity of treatment, and motion is required to take all equivalent states into equal consideration. When you make points move, you get nothing other than ontological mathematics, the true science of existence. Points, and only points, are consistent with Occam's razor, the law of simplicity and economy. Any theory of existence that does not start with points is more complex than it needs to be, and nature never does anything complex when it can do something simple instead. If nature can be constructed from mathematical points, it must be. It can, and it is, and that means that it is strictly mathematical. But you need to be among the smartest people on earth to get this. Well, do you get it? Math is not for all, and nor is the truth. The Illumicoi want only the finest, most open minds in the world. The world is full of small minds, closed minds, soft minds, weak minds, narrow minds, and simple minds. If you're sick of the world ruled by people like that, join the Illumicoi. Open your mind, expand your mind, enter the Illumikoi's world of mind at large. It's not for the faint of heart. It's only for those that cannot endure not having the complete answer to existence. Existence has an exact answer, and the Illumicoi have found it.